What's your name?
Wow, it's Rebecca Goodwin. You just want to rip me apart, don't you? And I don't mean in the way that I'm used
We'll
to.
get to that, to be fair. We will get to that.
I'm going to get off now. You are the most disrespectful people I've ever met.
What? We was only joking.
No, trust me, you lot are getting fucked.
This type of content creator storms out of podcast after the host of the podcast asks, what is she contributing to society? Now, this woman, who has 2 kids, by the way, is making over $125,000 a month in monthly income. The reason that I want to go over this particular story is because after she left the podcast, she went on a social media tirade, completely painting herself as the victim, but then the podcast host dropped the entire video. So I want to be able to go over that clip. I want to be able to go over her reaction and then understand, did they really pin her to a corner and make her feel absolutely horrible and like or is she claiming this false narrative of being a victim forever tortured by the male patriarchy? We'll figure it all out. Anyway, as you look down in the article, let me just give you a snippet of some of the things that she's saying. You can see some of the photos down up in here. Again, 2X, single mom. No matter of fact, I think she's in a relationship, but not to her baby daddy. So 2 kids, and she's saying stuff down here like, I will admit that in the podcast, I was not my best self, okay? I was overstimulated. I was frightened by the tears. I was defensive, and I couldn't get my point across correctly. They're using those bits to sort of try and make me look like a bad person. Also, what I wanted to share with you guys as well is the reach of this, right? This is currently being reported in People magazine, just to give you guys an idea of the reach and how far that this particular news story is spreading. Nevertheless, let's go over the video. Now, the name of this podcast is called The Reality Check. I'll leave a link down to it in the description box down below, but just warning, it's super vulgar. It seems like what their shtick is that they invite like corn creators on and ask them all of these vulgar damn questions. But I'm about 19 minutes into the conversation where this gentleman begins to ask her impact on society. He's already asked questions about the impact on her kids. What would she do if her kids wanted to be in the same business that she's doing? And she was like, yeah, I'll let them do whatever they want. But anyway, he begins to offer pushback. Let's get active.
If you were able to work, I'm talking about a normal person, yeah, not you that you had 2 kids and so on. The normal person who could earn even the minimum wage, which would be like, what, almost £2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Would that not be worth you saving your dignity?
My dignity was long gone way before I had this job. Like, my dignity was robbed of me when I was 4 years old. I'm reclaiming everything that was taken from me, okay?
The correlation between women or just people in general that take up occupations like this and having something happen to them this traumatic within their childhood is greatly correlated. The correlation between women like this or just people in general engaging in work like this and also having a past traumatic abuse, assault within their childhood is ridiculously high. This is why I push the importance of investment into healing as much of your trauma within your past as possible.
Everything.
How are you reclaiming it by doing OnlyFans?
Because men used my body, and now I'm using my body to reclaim what was taken from me. My dignity was stolen as a child. I was raped as a child. I was groomed as a child. Like, there's no dignity there. Obviously, it's common knowledge that the more people, that if people were, groomed or raped as a child, then they are more hypersexual as an adult. Yes. I'm going to use that to monetize from every single person that has ever taken from me, and I think I've done that pretty well.
So the logic here, if she's telling the truth, is pain was inflicted on me by a man, therefore my get back is to inflict pain or absorb money from all men in general. Dangerous line of thinking, and because no one has challenged her, here's where she is. Let's continue to watch how this guy politely challenges her thinking.
You say it's no dignity, but there's no dignity in going out to work for somebody that's really, really rich. I'm talking Tesco's, right? You're going to go, what is the dignity in setting your alarm for 6 o'clock in the morning to get up to go and make their pockets even bigger and give them more money while you're sat there all day?
You're comparing the OnlyFans to a
absolutely.
Even that, I'm not going to lie, even that has more dignity than doing what we do.
Please explain to me how getting up in the morning to line some rich
you're doing
man's
something
pocket,
positive for society, I guess.
Positive. £238,000 was my tax bill this year. Okay, I'm doing something positive for society by paying the lot of your wages.
Inmates in prison that committed murder still pay taxes, albeit not £288,000 or whatever it was. But they still pay it as well. The tax line is old. Get it out of here. The comparison of dignity of being a white-collar corporate worker versus getting your back severed by random men all across the internet, content of which your children are going to be able to see later, is markedly different.
Okay, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, if we went back to caveman times,
which we're not in,
we're actually going to have some constructive
if we went
production
back to
coming from people
so why
that are
don't you
doing
go
those
out
jobs.
there and kill a cow instead of shopping at Tesco's? Let's go
But
back to caveman times.
There are people doing that though.
But
And
we're not in caveman
you wouldn't be able
times.
to eat your burgers if there weren't people doing that. Whereas you getting your out on OnlyFans is
I'll tell you something else.
adding nothing productive to our society. If anything, it's damaging our society.
Except from the tax bill, the £238,000 that I paid on the 31st of January this year.
I was talking about girls that are.
How is that
I was talking about if a girl was earning £1,000.
How are the NHS nurses going to get paid without these tax bills?
Let's try not talk over each other, by the way.
I was talking about the girls that are earning £1,000 a month. And comparing it to someone who works in Tesco.
These girls do not belong to society. These girls are their own girls. These girls do not have to contribute anything to society. A society that gives you what? Please explain to me what society is giving you.
Apart from the things you're doing with charity and that, which is really good, by the way, what are you actually contributing to society with the work that you do?
The tax bill?
No, forget about the tax bill.
But that is what makes society run.
Some people are doing things
Why does my job have to contribute to society?
Let me finish.
It actually doesn't, ma'am. You have free will. You could do whatever it is that you want to do, but you're coping and acting like it's contributing something of value.
My job is contributing to making sure that me and my kids are okay. I am not going to stand here, and work for the NHS. What do? They charge you £9,000 a year to go to university, and then you have to pay nurse registrar fees the whole time that you're at being a nurse. And then on top of that, the nurses are being paid a shit wage. Society.
Listen, hold on. Wait.
It has nothing to do with society, ma'am. You're still a contractor working for OnlyFans. You still work for a company. A nurse still works for a company. You're all still contributing to a company. This makes absolutely no sense. If the CEO of OF, who is a man, by the way, wanted to shut you down, he could remove you from the platform and your income goes to...
So, bin men, doctors.
Right, I pay my council tax.
Hold on, wait. Bin men, doctors, nurses, Tesco workers are all contributing more than you are with your job.
I'm paying their
wages. You're not doing anything. You're just getting your minge out and men are bashing to what you're doing.
And what are you doing? I do a podcast. I'm contributing to society.
You don't know what we do.
I'm paying tax. I'm paying tax. I pay enough tax to pay 30 nurses' wages a year. I pay that tax. That's corporation tax, dividend tax, personal tax. So you won't understand any of this, you see. But carry on.
I wouldn't wait.
No, but don't you think it's... Okay, let's move on from that. Don't you think it's a bit of a waste? You're giving the UK government so much money. Like, they're just throwing it all away.
You think I want to give the UK
Why don't
government...
you leave?
Why don't I leave what?
You got the money. Why don't you leave the UK?
Because I've got children.
Yeah, take them.
They don't want to be here. They do want to be here. I've already asked this.
It's because they don't know where else they want to.
They've travelled a lot. I took them out of school for 6... No, actually, it was a 6-week holidays, and we got a motorhome, and we drove from Cornwall, from Chesterfield to Cornwall, back up to the Lake District in 6 weeks. And I asked them...
Nothing like the Maldives or...
Where they've seen Cornwall in the Lake District.
Let me finish.
We know they want to be in the UK now.
They've obviously been other places, but the plan was if they liked the motorhome.
No, but like other countries.
You know what? I'm going to get off now. You lot are the most disrespectful people I've ever met.
What?
We was only joking.
No, trust me. You lot are getting fucking rich and shit now.
Are you being serious?
What?
Yeah.
They were all laughing and joking.
Hey, goodbye. What the
It does.
That is mad.
It's not logical, guys.
What?
So the kids want to be in the UK because they're going to go to Chester, to Sheffield, to Cornwall.
Guys, do you think we did anything wrong there? Like, were we
She was just delusional, mate.
rude?
She was mad.
I don't think it was rude. She was just delusional.
No, that is mad. If you keep it rolling though, her boyfriend might come in after.
Let him, mate. That'd be a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't personally think that we was rude. I think we were just challenging her on her points. She's got very strong points, but she's delusional. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if her thinks she contributes to society for doing corn. That she doesn't.
We're going to go over a response.
I mean, we did push back a lot with like what we said, but I mean, isn't that like part of a podcast?
Yeah.
Like you come on here to share your opinions. I don't know why she got so angry about it all.
Yeah.
God knows.
Very good argument.
I don't think she's used to having people challenge her on her opinions.
She's not.
It's obvious. She's surrounded by yes men.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And listen, you guys can go up and watch the rest of their comments. The podcast only goes on for like a minute or so longer. But this is what happens when you hold accountable or you hold a mirror up to their face. And what's crazy is that this is in podcast format. So listen, for these guys, it's a lose-lose situation, right? Well, actually, they could win if the conversation goes well and then it gets picked up by a media outlet. They could win in that particular scenario. But hey, listen, it's a podcast where you might be challenged regarding your ideologies. Now, I doubt this is her first podcast. And listen, she knows that whether or not she storms out the podcast or she stays through the duration, she's going to get more subscriptions, right? That's the reason why someone who does corn content will continue to come back and do podcasts, because simps will be simping. Now, I went to her Instagram and found her reaction, and she has a collaboration post with the news movement at which that they write, Rebecca Goodwin is right. We shouldn't allow the monetization of misogyny. Oh, God, they challenged me, misogynist, chauvinistic pig, right? So it says right here, your social media feeds might be featuring the woman in question a lot recently, and for good reason. She walked out of an all-male podcast after she was bullied and disrespected. What portion of that was bullied and disrespected? We will never know. All right, let's just listen to her.
Story time. So I've just driven 3 hours, or I've been driven 3 hours to Croydon to do a podcast, okay? Now, this was an unpaid podcast. I thought I was helping people out. I was happy to come all this way with no payment whatsoever to try and, be in with the scene. And when I got there, it was 3 men in their apartment.
3 men in their apartment? No!
And they sat me down. They then decided to talk over me the whole podcast so that I couldn't say anything. They told me that I was a waste of space and I did nothing for society.
It is immensely difficult to put into words the degree of victim that she is playing right now. These guys were not disrespectful with you. They did not bully you. You know why you were there. And yeah, it's a free podcast, but you know that it's going to get your name out there so more Sims can sign up to your bullshit. Now, they go on to write this post. The video has been seen over 5.5 million times. She features on only has 180,000 views. We're not going to name the podcast, but it's got a 1.1 star rating on Spotify. That's a pot shot. Regardless, though, I think that they're not naming it so people can't go to the original podcast in order to get the full context. Link down in the description. Because she asked for all of the clips from it to be removed. She said, I do not wish to be associated with the 3 men and this podcast. Oh, yeah, right. You don't want the full podcast up so people can get the full context of the situation. What happened? They walked off after they talked over her and laughed at a holiday that she took her kids on. They said that she had no dignity, yada, yada, yada. Despite this, Rebecca's message seems to have cut through loud and clear. Workers do contribute to society and should be treated with respect. The public response to the viral clip of her walking out and the even more viral clip of her discussing why, of course, the why is going to become more viral. And of course, they're going to want the podcast to cut out the clips, has been heavily on Rebecca's side. Comments under Rebecca's post praise her for raising awareness of how most S workers do actually contribute to society and criticize the broadcast style of attempting to humiliate these workers for viral clips. Let's see what else they got. There's a post here about Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue, the chicks that have like 100 and 1,000 bodies in a day, respectively, which is crazy. And I guess this is what they're utilizing as broadcast for an example, the whatever podcasts attempting to humiliate the OF models, as Olivia Atwood would say, a safe space for these broadcasts, as the public are less likely to stand up for women that they believe to be putting themselves in that position. She also makes a point that the men have only started to criticize these S workers since women became the ones in control. What? Through the likes of OF. What do you mean the ones in control? Perhaps it can't just be that young men today have an overwhelming addiction to that type of media, corn addiction. They can't leave self-pleasure or their meats alone. And it's leading, one of the reasons, to an epidemic of loneliness amongst these men. No, it can't be none of that. It can't be men questioning the validity of this type of work up on society. What it seems like is that any criticism towards that, they deem as gaining less power. So shame on you, men, for criticizing it. It's ridiculous. While the men who host the podcast have set out to try to discredit her, saying that they won't be silenced and the public has fallen for her publicity stunt, they absolutely have. She has called on her supporters to not name the podcast or share clips of her appearance as a way of tackling their any attention is good attention approach to success. Yeah, sure. This is what's called the butterfly effect on the internet. Tell people not to do it and they're going to do it way more. She knows that. A win for the girls and the gays. Holy moly. Let's see what else is here. Whether you agree with Rebecca and the way that she makes her money or not, the way that she's treating in the podcast is uncomfortable to watch. There's no value to continue to read this out any more than here, so I'll just leave it as it is. Final conclusions. If you look at the full video, it is clear that she was laughy, jokey, was having a good time up until she entered into the chat this trauma that she suffered within her young life as a child. And I think that because of this degree of trauma, and I'm not saying that it's easy to get rid of that type of thing if she's telling the truth that has happened within her life, it is clear when you listen to the reason that she validates what she's doing, that she hasn't healed from it. So I think that she harbored the weight of that as she continued off in the conversation. When they started to make light of joking about UK and taking vacations, she estimated that they're just laughing at her to make fun of her, and then she skedaddled out of there. That on top of her natural inclination to avoid accountability like the plague is what led to this. Guys, drop me your thoughts down in the comment box down below. What is it that you think about this storm out of the podcast? Do you think that she was justified? Do you think that the gentleman went too far? Or do you think the opposite, sort of like myself? Let's have a conversation about it. Last but not least, my men's self-development platform is absolutely going to another level. Click the link down below and beam up to see all of the resources that we have up on there, especially if you have a focus on financial education going into the future. We got the money tips, we got the mindset tips, we got the education as well in order to continue to build wealth going into the future to ensure that you have the happiest life possible. I guarantee it. All right. Until next time. YouTube. Peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked up by a high value man.